Hello, 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 and welcome. Well, I'm just going to get right to it. I went to the doctor, I got blood work done. When I got my labs back, I realized that my A1C had gone up from 5.9 to 6.0. I was panicked. I was thinking, what in the world is going on? How is my A1C going up on Mounjaro? Now, I'm just going to fill you in really quick before I get into this on my A1C stats. So when I started my Mounjaro journey in February of 2024, my A1C was at a 7.6%. Over the course of time, being on Mounjaro, I've been on Mounjaro for 15 months now, my A1C has gone down. And so that is great, right? That is great. I'm going to put my stats up here so you can see it. So as you can imagine, I was a little distressed when I got that 6.0. So I'm going to tell you, I got my blood work done. It was after the appointment with my doctor. So I checked my information, my results, and I sent my doctor a message. Like I said, I was in a panic. And my doctor wrote back, and I'm going to read what she wrote. She said, your hemoglobin A1C is more or less the same compared to the last time. More or less the same. What does that mean? All I can think of in my mind was it's not the same. It went up a little bit. So, of course, I did what I always do. I had to look into that. Like, what was she talking about? Why would she say that? Why would she make it seem like it was kind of no big deal? So I'm going to share this with you because I think this is so important for anyone who's on a weight loss journey and anyone who is monitoring their A1C because they are a type 2 diabetic. That's the main reason why I am on Mounjaro, to bring my blood sugar levels down. So there are some things that kind of played into this, and so I'm going to go over those with you. But this is why my doctor probably wasn't concerned. Currently, I am on 12.5 milligrams of Mounjaro. I just increased my dose a week ago. Before that, I was on 10 milligrams of Mounjaro for about 6.5 to 7 months. I was into my 7th month before I titrated up. And actually, I was feeling good. I was losing weight. I'm down 70 plus pounds. I just, felt good. I felt good. I felt like I was doing all the things, exercising, strength training, getting it all in. When I saw my blood sugar level had gone up even slightly, it just alarmed me. So what I found out is that a change from 5.9 to 6.0 is clinically insignificant. It's a shift of 0.1 in your blood sugar levels, and they say your blood sugar naturally fluctuates over time. But more importantly, I think this is the important thing, is 5.9 and 6.0. They both fall into that pre-diabetic range. So I took myself from, being in diabetic range to pre-diabetic range. And now my goal is to totally get out of pre-diabetic range. But they're essentially the same risk categories. So that's another reason why she probably didn't come off as being concerned. What matters, she told me in our meeting, several times before this last time, is that what matters most about your A1C. If you are enjoying this video so far, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed, and join me on my journey. And your blood sugar levels is your trend over time, the overall picture, your weight, your habits, your lifestyle, and being consistent. And my doctor feels like I'm doing all those things. She even reminded me that stress and poor sleep and not being dehydrated, we talked about all those things that could cause your A1C to increase. So we've talked about that before, but not necessarily this particular visit, because remember, my results came after I already had my doctor's appointment, which I'm working on kind of fixing that. I wanted to know for myself and pinpoint some of the things I was doing so that I could tweak it. So why can an A1C go up while you're losing weight? Because remember, I have been losing weight consistently over time. Well, we all know GLP-1s aren't a magic weight loss injection. It's definitely not a magic bring your A1C down medication. So if you thought that, I am proof that you can still go up. Your A1C can go up on this GLP-1. So that's why we have to really pay attention to our habits and kind of track what we're doing, keep track of what's going on with our bodies so we can tweak things when we need to. So some of the things that you could do to raise that A1C is eat more carbs than your body can handle. And I think I did that during Lent. I became a pescatarian, but I really leaned heavy on, carbs. So I was eating quinoa, I was eating brown rice, I was eating potatoes, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, mostly the sweet potatoes. I was eating lots of beans. And so all of those things have carbs. We just know they do. Now, those are the better sources of carbs, but they're still carbs. And I was eating lots of fruit, and we know fruit is also has carbs in them. And so all those carbs you turn into sugar in your body. And I knew I was getting more. Why? Because I was tracking it. Before I changed my diet, when my A1C was consistently moving down, before I changed that diet, I was getting between 80 and 90 grams of carbs a day. So I was less than 100, which was my goal. And so when I started to eat a pescatarian diet and focus more on the whole foods, I was eating between 140, sometimes up to 200 carbs a day. So I was eating a lot more carbs, and I wondered, can my body handle this? Is this a good move? I knew I was eating more carbs. If you've been following my journey, I've been saying that, and I had said, I hope it doesn't affect my A1C. Well, now we know it probably did. So that's okay. We're going to work on that. So maybe that's not you. Something else that could affect it is if you experience muscle loss, which means you probably have less insulin sensitivity. Well, I don't think that that's the case, because I've been continuing to do the things I was doing before with the exercise. And when I got my results from DEXA scan, it kind of confirmed what I was doing, because my lean muscle mass was in an excellent range. So we want to keep it that way. But I don't think I'm losing muscle. Another reason your A1C could go up, even if you're losing weight, is you're under stress. Remember, stress raises your cortisol levels, which could actually also raise your blood sugar level. And I did have a lot of stress going on in these last couple of months, so it could have been that as well. So in my case, I think it was eating too many carbs that my body just couldn't handle. I think it was also stress and not getting that optimal amount of sleep that I need. So I think those are the things. So what am I doing differently now? That's a great question. So I don't know why it sounded like that, but that is a great question. So after I did my little research and I reflected back on what I was doing, how many carbs I was eating. So I am focused on tweaking things and tightening up my routine, right? So one of the things I'm going to do different is I'm going to cut back those carbs. I'm going back to the 80 to less than 100 carbs. So, 80 is probably more my goal, but as long as I get under 100. When I was doing that, my A1C was consistently going down. Now, my A1C never did a sharp takedown, and that's because the people I know who, their A1C, went from high levels to very low, and they're not even in the diabetic range or pre-diabetic range, I should say, is because they really cut those carbs to very, very few. They weren't eating fruit, they were more so on the keto style type of a diet. And I didn't want to do that. I know keto and just cutting out carbs is not for me. Now, if it's going to save my life, yeah, I would do it. But at this point, I am learning how to do all things in moderation. And I think I can have some carbs and still, get to my goal. And if I'm proven wrong, I'll just do something totally different. But according to my doctor and what I've been researching, it's just a cutting back, right? Not cutting out. So if something happens and I go back after I'm between this 80 and 100 carbs per day, and I haven't moved, then I definitely will just really have to cut those carbs way, way back even more, like even, in half, like 50 or less or something like that. But right now, I don't see that I would need to do that. But if I do, I'm willing to tweak it. I just also have to make sure that I'm getting, 6 to 8 hours of sleep, ideally 8 or more. But if I can get 6 to 8, I'm working on that. And managing my stress. So what am I doing to manage stress? Well, the things that are stressful, I'm letting them go. Now, some of the things I can't change, like, how busy I am with my daughter, with my family, with work, those sort of things I can't change necessarily. They're a little less out of my control, but I can certainly change how I react to things, right? Instead of letting things stress me out, I can learn how to manage it. One of the things I'm doing that's one of the reasons why I'm taking Pilates. I've done Pilates in the past. I did it 2 years ago. It was so much of a stress reliever. You go in there and it's kind of like it's you, it's your body, it's that music, it's that feeling of connecting with yourself, connecting with your body. Really, it's a mind-body connection that you can't beat. It is like a yoga, because I've heard people make the comparison, but I would say it's like yoga on steroids, right? You take it up a notch. And so I have incorporated that. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm doing the strength training. I love the Taibo. I love the kicks, the punches, the movement. But one of the things I could do is get in some just walking, right? Just plain walking. Now, I'm not an outdoors girl. I don't think you'll find me walking outside, but I will jump on my treadmill and get on that a little bit more, because that movement, that, extra little movement, I think is going to help with my stress level. We shall see. And then, of course, I'll be following up with my doctor in 3 months. We already have it scheduled to see if my A1C is reduced. So I'm looking forward to that. So let me just do a recap, because this A1C and being a diabetic and taking Mounjaro, being so concerned with your weight and your A1C, this is important. So I'm just going to tell you, I went from the 5.9 to a 6.0, and it's just a 0.1% difference. Of course, that A1C averages out your blood sugar over 3 months. So minor fluctuations can occur, and that's to be expected. So if you're one of those people who that has happened to, you're okay. You're okay. We're going to work on that. According to medical guidelines, just to remind you, a 5.7% to a 6.4% is you're in the pre-diabetic range, which at that 5.9 and the 6.0, I'm still in that pre-diabetic range. So that's why my doctor wasn't so concerned. And I think if I hadn't seen that number go from like a 5.9 to a 6.0, I wouldn't be as you're frizzy about it. But I think because seeing that number change, it's like it went up, but it went to a new number. And I just have to keep that perspective that I'm still in the pre-diabetic range. And a 6.5% and up, that means you're a diabetic. So I am totally out of that diabetic range. But we know there is no cure for diabetes. You have to manage this with lifestyle changes, which I am doing. I do want to add here that it's not just your A1C that matters. It's also other health improvements that play a picture in this whole Mounjaro journey. So if you're losing weight, if you're eating better, you're moving more, you're taking your GLP-1 medication on that schedule like you're supposed to, not necessarily skipping doses. They're more likely improving your insulin sensitivity and your metabolic health. So even if your A1C goes up a little bit, those other factors really matter. So don't panic. Do not panic. I am here to relax your mind. Now, some people may not admit if their A1C has gone up while they're taking Mounjaro, but if you are one of those people and it's happened to you, just know you are not alone. So that's why I'm sharing this, so people can be reassured that it's not too late. You can still get back on that right track. Remember, your A1C can also be affected by other things. I kind of pinpointed mine to that high carb, eating plan I was on. But being dehydrated, having a recent illness or an infection could also impact your A1C. I did not realize that, but it makes sense. Not getting the proper sleep that you need, that also can affect your A1C. And remember, everything goes back to that menopause, right? Perimenopause and menopause. Being perimenopausal or being in menopause, that also can affect your A1C, which now that I'm thinking about it, right, it makes total sense. So I want you to remember to stay on track every 3 months if you can. If your insurance won't cover that, if you have to pay a little extra to get it, I think it's worth it. If not, whenever your insurance covers that, make sure you get that blood work to follow up, because that's really how you know what your A1C is doing over time. Day to day, if you're keeping track of your blood sugar levels from day to day, you know that it fluctuates, right? So you want a true picture of just what it's looking like over time. I would also make sure you keep up with the blood work. Here are some final takeaways. If you're in the same boat and you're losing on Mounjaro, but your A1C has slightly gone up, do not panic. Do not panic. You're okay. You're still in good hands. If you still have those other things that I talked about going on, you're good. Your body is adjusting to the medication. And remember, this has not ruined your progress. I just took this as a motivation to get me back on track of bringing that A1C down. I'm still losing, but I really want my A1C to go down. And that's my ultimate goal here. Also, don't lose sight of the big picture here. Don't lose sight of your habits, your routine. What structure do you have in place? What system do you have in place to make sure you're doing all the things. Are you in a calorie deficit? Are you getting that sleep in there? Are you hydrated? Are you doing all the things? Are you moving? How is that mindset? Have you totally made the mindset shift that you're going to make some changes? And when you hit bumps in the road, this is where that mindset shift comes in. When you hit bumps in the road, what do? It kind of reminds me of the saying that character is built not on what people see you doing, but what you're doing when no one's watching. How is your character when no one's watching? So no one is keeping up with what you're doing with your lifestyle changes and how you're approaching your GLP-1 journey. What are you doing when people aren't watching? Are you doing all the things? And we just want to make sure that we are. And I have to remind myself of that too. And finally, I would say, you guessed it, talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor or your healthcare professional. They are going to be the ones that will guide you and give you some resources, tools, strategies, hopefully, that you need to be successful on this journey. Also, check in with the Downsizing Diva, because I'm here to help you as well. I am not a doctor or a healthcare professional, but I certainly would love to support you on your journey. With that said, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know. Did you have something weird going on with your A1C? Let me know your A1C stats and how are you doing on your GLP-1. I would love to compare notes with you and just talk about your experience. And if you're someone who's watched this video and you have a loved one or a friend or anybody you know that is struggling with their diabetes diagnosis or being a pre-diabetic, introduce them to this video and show them that you can do it. You can be successful on a GLP-1 medication. So meet me in the comments below. I want to hear about it. I also want to remind you that I am live. I am live on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm live on Wednesdays at 8:30, and I'm live on Fridays at 8:30. So come and join the community, interact with me live. We try to have lots of fun, but we also try to be helpful and talk through some of the struggles you're having, but also we want to celebrate your wins as well. So like the video, subscribe to my channel, share it with someone that needs to hear this message. And remember, slow and steady wins the race. Just don't quit. Downsizing Diva.